There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues, with capital the heart of their design? When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no, which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Happy Halloween!
What's going on?
Last minute, Jared pulled. I thought I was going to pull the surprise today because I was wearing my stupid mask. I wanted to make him laugh, and he was like, "I'm going to get the camera broke." So he's sliding in at the last second. I thought I was going to be the one with the upper hand. I wish it was just the Halloween show. We could just sit here and goof and act like nothing was going on, but we are a week away from the election. I'm taking this off. We are a week away from the election now. And we are really tired of talking about it. And I think you all are pretty tired of talking about it and hearing about it too. So let's keep doing it. That's where we are at this stage. So thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. But we're kind of just going to roll with it as is, because there's, what else is going on right now? Not very much. Even in other countries, this is a very dominating factor, because it affects all of them too. When America is like, thinks they're boss of the world in the empire, then it impacts all of the other countries. It impacts the rest of the world pretty consistently. Hello to the chat. Hi, are you a time traveler too? Thanks for joining us. Okay, so it looks, I can see you. You're looking good today, looking nice. So you slide in just in time, so that's good.
I was here nice and early. Like I was sat down at my desk 15 minutes ahead of time. I have all my things pulled up from yesterday. I'm like, I'm going to be all prepped. I'm always coming in here last second. And then I'm messing with my camera. I'm getting no source, check on and off, plug in, unplug, do all the things I know how to do. And then I go to unplug the one cable, and just the center of it remains in the camera. I'm like, well, that's probably the issue. So I need to get a new HDMI micro cable. But also now I'm looking at this, which is like a crappy direct USB Logitech webcam, and it looks fine. You guys should just be using this the whole time. I'm wasting my money on these. Like what's the point of this? What does this do for me if it cannot match the video quality of a stock standard unaffected Logitech webcam? Yeah.
Well, you look good. It looks good. Picture's good.
I think my frame rate's better. I should be using this shitty webcam all the time. Look at this.
Yeah, I found out that my frame rate, Google, because I stream on, I have two browsers open. My primary browser I use is Firefox, but I stream when we're on Restream, when I'm doing this, I use the Chrome browser, which I hate, and it also is pretty haunted, and it hates everything that I got connected to it, so it'll drop my frame rate really low, and it's like, what do you expect me to do? I'm in the middle of a show. So, yeah.
It's Halloween. It's haunted.
Yeah, it is, exactly. It's all the time. Yeah, I wish we could just sit here and eat candy and talk about whatever and Halloween and whatnot. Or do you do the whole trick-or-treater, hand out candy type of thing? Or
We do now live in I grew up in the middle of absolute nowhere, so the idea that we'd have trick or treat stuff ready, but they would prepare, like my parents would get together. It's an area where maybe this is a common thing. If you live in the middle of nowhere, anybody in the chat who sees this, and if you can agree, like in the middle of nowhere, people don't have the individual pieces of candy. You like assemble a little gift bag, a little tiny
yeah.
gift bag with like 6 to 10 pieces of candy. If you're really lucky, sometimes it'll have like a popcorn ball, and then around that other candy is possibly like a baked good. Like you get a whole little care package because you're a mile between houses, and you know you're only gonna go to like maybe 7 houses, and that'll take an hour or so.
Yeah.
And you have to be driving to do this. So people, we would prepare maybe 6 of those little gift pouches, and then if anyone shows up, boop, you get one of those. And if we had more than 6 trick-or-treaters, we were like, oh, give us a second, we're putting together another one.
We're making more gift bags. Wow.
So now I live in an actual populated area, and some kids do come here. It's almost surprising because we're like most blocks in Phoenix, the center of the block has an elementary school. There's like a high school off to the one side, kind of closer to the main road. They set it up semi-logically. I don't hate the like city design of Phoenix, but we get like nobody. Some year, it's usually like the families near us who are going out to trick or treat will like poke their heads up and go, "Oh, look, yeah, hit their house first, then we'll get in the car," and then they drive to some other neighborhood, and I'm like,
Right.
it's weird because it's not like demographically. It's not that like there's plenty of Latinos around me, but they all just do Halloween. It's not like, oh, they don't do Halloween, they're from Mexico. It's like they definitely do.
We do, yeah.
So,
People
yeah,
like-
and aside, I saw some weird. I don't even want to call like propaganda is too strong a word. People are just gonna start rolling their eyes. But I saw like a big post going out about how like Halloween is illegal in China, and here's video of the cops locking down on Chinese Halloween, and all the responses are just like, I live in China, and they've been doing Halloween like crazy. I live in China, and they're doing Halloween on my block. This is what we're doing for Halloween. Hi, I'm from China. We're doing Halloween, and this is how like what they were showing footage of was, oh, there's about to be a holiday, so let's put up some extra police barricades for like traffic control, and that's it. It's as if like you took video of, oh, they're setting up for the World Series. Baseball is illegal in America. Look at all these cops who are out just because people want to celebrate their love of the game of baseball. It's like, what are you talking about?
I think I heard something about that too, not like in the propaganda sense necessarily, but they were saying that most, like they were showing footage of people already celebrating in China.
They
and
like do it
outdoors
for
having
weeks.
Yeah, and they said that the post said something about it was only Shanghai putting in some crowd control like situation because they were just worried about it getting like oversaturated, like too many people. It's just
crowds. It's not that they're like, you're in costume, go to jail.
Yeah, no, it was people having fun. It's like it's fun for a lot of people, so like why wouldn't they want to do it in other countries? I know that it's picking up in the UK, and you know, like everybody's got their own thing, but it's like it was always kind of a distinctly American thing to go door to door and hand out candy, which is
oh no, sorry, I'm loading up my stuff and it's throwing me up there already. Okay.
Oh, it's all right. It's you know, it's been a weird morning for you. And here we go. But we got another time change coming up. The last time we had a time change, we were like, "What is 1 o'clock?" We were sitting there shooting back and forth, like, "What is time? What does it mean when you have a show and you need to be on at a certain time?" So we agreed when clock is at 1, we will go on, and that's how we've handled it. So we've got that coming up as well. All right, guys, we've bantered enough, I think, here because we usually talk before the show, so we didn't get a chance to talk before the show. So you get to sit and hear us talk about what's going on.
This is the last week you have to scream at people in your life and try to make them feel bad about who they're voting or not voting for. You only have 7 days, everyone.
Yes, for their stupid and bad choices. But you know, when it's only stupid and bad choices, what are you going to do? You know, we've said many times we're critical of all the parties. We had a show last week where we finally went after we were a little harder on the Green Party than we normally are, and we went after Republicans. And the reason we always say we're not interested in going after Republicans is because it's a waste of breath. They're idiots. We know they're idiots. Everybody agrees they're idiots, except unless you are one. But the reason that makes us so mad and we go after the Democrats so much is because there is no opposition that they offer, and they should be offering a stern and opposition to all these things. Be like, hey, you guys are stupid. Here's an alternative. Not courting them, not trying to appeal to them in any which way, you know, and which is exactly what Hillary Clinton did in 2016, which was forget about what everybody wants, you know, regardless of political affiliation. You know, we want a lot of the same things. But, to try to get those people, that very small amount of people who weren't already going to vote for Trump, that's exactly what's happening again, except, I think that margin has to be way smaller. So we kind of, we went at the Republicans a little bit more. But still, it's a waste of time. We're on for an hour a week, and we want to talk about what I think really matters to us. We went after the Greens a little bit, but the fact of it is that we're on the left. We're a left podcast. We talk about left politics, and so even though we don't necessarily love the Green Party or their record or how they've been, we are as closely aligned to a party that one can be with them. If we're talking about Republican, Democrat, Green, so. When we talk about choosing the lesser of the evils, that's Green Party. So we have
there's not even going to pull up anything for this, but minor update of that, where I was talking last week about how Ware, who is Jill Stein's chosen vice presidential candidate, had a series of tweets talking about the Uyghur genocide in China. People need to take this China stuff more seriously. China's killing everyone. And a lot of people are like, come on, man, this is Adrian Zen, by the way. Adrian Zen is the singular American where just he's always named as the source for any of the they're killing all these Muslims in they don't even say killing anymore because that's been very there's no evidence of it. So they've it's switched to it's all these things that aren't killing but is also bad. Look at, they have concentration camps, and they show a picture of just a normal prison operating. Not that I love prisons, but China does have jails just like the US does, and if we really want to have a big fight about that, we can argue about why does China have fewer total people in prison than the United States while they have a population of over 1 billion and we have a population of 300 million. Yeah, but
I think the short answer to that is they don't monetize their prisoners. So
it is a very different kind of system, and profit seeking in the prison system of China is not nearly as much of a thing as it is in the US. Man, oh man, would I love if you have the Democrats who will they've been doing things that are nominally prison reform. Biden got on TV not too long ago talking about how he's going to stop XY thing in federal prisons, and that's really the gotcha in all of it. If they get up there and they're talking about all this prison reform for federal prisons, there's 6 federal prisons. There's not that many of them. It's really these things would have to apply to state prisons, because that's where most of our prison population is in our state prisons. And if you stopped the profit-seeking nonsense going on there, I think you'd be shocked at how quickly these prisons would empty out when you can't be charging people $7 a minute to call home, or $8 for a pack of soap, while paying them a cent a day, or in the case of Louisiana, $0 a lot of the times. Actually, in many states, $0, because in the Constitution, you still are allowed to do slavery, but only as punishment for a crime.
Yes. Punitive slavery. Oh, do you know what I just saw? I don't have it pulled up in front of me because it just came back into my mind, but I saw a quotation by a sheriff or something that said that the Arizona economy would collapse without prison labor.
The good guy candidate. Hooray!
Oh, okay, yeah, I was about to say, you want to weigh in on this one?
It's very surreal because I listened to because I have NPR on because I like the radio. Because it's such a weird. I got to listen to a tiny bit of the sheriff debate in Arizona, which is a statewide elected position that is it's quote nonpartisan, so they don't put the R&D on their names, but you're campaigning that way, and it's two different guys who are trying to simultaneously not sound like they're real hyped about how many people they got in jail, because you can't just run on I put more people in prison than anyone, because no one likes that. In general, that's not a winning campaign message of I will fill the prisons. Not anymore, like it was in the 80s and 90s. But
Joe Arpaio?
Joe Arpaio was our most famous sheriff.
Yeah, he was you guys, right? Arizona, right? Yeah.
He's the Tent Cities guy, and even the Tent Cities thing is a whole conversation of once you know all the details of Tent City, it's well, okay, that isn't the pure evil that it sounds like on its face. Tent City, we're in Arizona, the hottest state and the hottest city near Phoenix in the country, and we have outdoor prison called Tent City, which I think exists. It exists and doesn't. It comes back some years and it goes away. Then that was Arpaio's big thing. But it's also voluntary and leads to a shorter time of imprisonment. Only certain
you're
crimes
more likely
count for
to die
it.
While you're out there.
Yeah, but well, the thing is, if you're in Tent City, you're also automatically in a work release thing where Monday through Friday you leave Tent City, you go to your job all day, which probably is air conditioned, and then you come back and it's I don't know. it's like everything in the U.S. Every kind of like prison possible thing. There's many elements to it, and
Cool Hand Luke stuff going on there.
it sounds like we're just gonna force prisoners to die in the sun, but it's well, they aren't forced, and you are allowed to leave, but only at certain times, and then you're there like all weekend, and no, there is not air conditioning, but you're in a tent. I don't know, man. I want to disassemble our entire prison system and maybe start again, but without profits.
Yeah, we need to have a whole show about that, because I'm so like, I get so confused about, I don't know what I believe when it comes, because you think like, when you're talking about a system, it's like if it was a perfect flawless system where only the bad guys went to like, death row, like only the ones that really did really fucked up things that really deserved it. Nobody ever accidentally or was maligned into being, in that situation. And it's like, yeah, then theoretically good thing, right? Then it's like, but it doesn't work that way at all. So really bad thing. So yeah, we gotta have like a whole prison show. I'm very desperate to get on to some other topics. It's been horrible for so long. It feels like just the same stupid conversation going on week after week.
If you can get a handle on poverty and get a handle on mental health, the whole prison question becomes a lot less murky, because in the U.S., most of our prison population is a combination of poor and mentally unstable people, and hey, those two can even lead into each other. You can in fact be driven crazy by living on the freaking street.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Jill Stein came back and did a very she knew she had to do some kind of statement where she's like, I don't think that the Chinese are doing a genocide, but I'm not going to fully say that, but I'm definitely going to, but she spends a lot of time pointing out how the U.S. kills way more people than are even being accused of being killed in the non-genocide, quote, Uyghur genocide that isn't happening. So like she did a quasi, like, not a walk back, but signaled to everybody who actually cares, which is very few people, which is probably why she didn't just jump out, China's great, everybody shut up, because that would turn a lot of people off.
Right, yeah.
But
you gotta kind of walk the line on that one.
She kind of like, not threw her VP under the bus, but she did some kind of damage control thing with that. Like, it's not even a headline, because that's how few people care about it, but, among, like, Marxist Twitter, people were yelling about it. So hooray! Everybody who already voted for Jill Stein, you can feel slightly different again about that vote.
Yeah, I'm seeing, and I have been seeing in trending topics, she's trending in pretty big numbers for on almost every day, pretty large numbers, and I can't recall. I think I've been on Twitter since I was pretty late to Twitter. I think about 2018 is when I joined. It was whenever Tumblr had their adult content banned. I was like, I protested it, and because I'm OG Tumblr. I've been on Tumblr forever and ever and ever, and I love it. But then when they tried to do their whole nonsense, I was like, hey, Krusty Krab is unfair. Mr. Krab is in there, and I left. So I was gone for a few years, and so it was around 2018 when I came to. And I don't remember seeing like a Green candidate or a third party candidate ever really get that much, I guess, conversation or talk. Obviously it doesn't matter if it's like good talk or bad talk, like for or against. But the idea of anybody just talking about a third party candidate that much, I think, is actually pretty unprecedented. I mean, we might have seen that before social media a little bit, because Ross Perot was a pretty popular third-party candidate. Ralph Nader's always had, kind of the ear of people, but most of the people always talk about him like a crackpot. So
that's why we have seatbelts in our cars. Yeah,
right. I think this is the first time I've really seen like a third party / Green candidate really kind of have let's say a serious stake in an election. I mean,
she
we're not
must actually be polling well. Like the real polls that they don't show us must actually be showing some shit.
Right. Yeah, like the ones their internal polls, all of their stuff. And I was a little skeptical about it because I don't know if the video was really manipulated or it was legit. But pivoting just slightly, there in Michigan, obviously we know that Kamala Harris is doing very badly because of the Muslim vote. There's a very large population of Arab and Muslim people there and that's where the whole Abandon Harris campaign kind of got started there. And
don't
they're
worry,
not
they eventually the uncommitted movement, the
Yeah.
leaders of it. This is again why I like the sentiment versus the official organizations. Of course, the sentence and phrase "Black Lives Matter" does resonate with me to some degree. The organization of private individuals who got in, kicked out all the original founders, and then the one lady bought like 9 houses, and it's like, yeah, that shit isn't what I'm about.
Yeah.
Just like that, the uncommitted movement, I absolutely support the idea of, hey, don't vote for either of these ghouls. That's
Right.
kind of my whole shtick here. But the uncommitted movement leadership, like the bunch of Democrats who kind of were in charge of that, have since, as we read on the show the other day, they didn't endorse Harris, but they said, vote for anyone but Trump or third party.
So
So they've endorsed Harris.
I guess you could do the math on that one yourself at home if you're keeping score at home.
I'm very curious to see whether the Michigan voters actually like are just getting up there and going, "I'm really mad," and then just vote for her anyway,
they vote for her anyway.
or
Yeah,
if they hold to it.
Yeah, but the thing is okay. I got a couple of points here, but what I was going to say was that I didn't want to talk about the video too much because I didn't know if it was manipulated. But apparently, someone got through at one of Harris's rallies in Michigan and called her out. Yelled out something about Gaza, and then there was booing, and she kind of had to shut up about it. And I don't know if they were like kind of booing the person or booing her, but like it was a little bit gray area there. So
I think they're booing the protester, but it was shown as like Kamala gets booed. And I'm like, I don't think they're booing her.
Yeah, I kind of felt like on it, but I would like to think that would happen. I mean, that should send some clear signals of something going on. And I had a second point, but I forgot it. So that's what we. I'm not. That's why I talk so as fast as I do, is because I say so much stuff because I will forget if I don't get it out of my mouth. So yeah, I think that they could really take a lesson here. There's so many things. Like the issue is if you do look at the national polling, and if you have one you trust, or if you just kind of look at them across the board. And no place really, other than just to really polarized states, nationally, they are in a dead heat, or they want you to think that, or whoever, or whatever. But this is exactly what we talked about with Biden. We didn't have our show then, but when we were on our own yelling at our families and people that won't talk to us anymore and all that. But this was like, how are you even with like arguably the worst candidate that's ever been, like Trump? Like everybody pretty much agrees, unless you're super into him, that he's like the worst there's ever been. Like this is number one worst guy who's ever lived. Everybody hates this guy, right? Everybody super hates Trump. How are you even with him then? Like there are so many easy things that you could do, so many policies, so many just like fake promises you could make that would tip the scale in your favor. All you got to come out there and do is just like dance around and say, I'll give you anything you want. And then like you win, right? But like they won't even do that. Like the Democrats won't even like lie anymore. It's so confusing to me as a political strategy that is being repeated, and where we saw that Biden barely came out on top to the point of January 6th happening. And we might be looking at another one of those, happening again, because if it's even closer than it was last time, he's obviously going to contest that. We're gonna, or they both would, obviously, but like we're gonna end up in a hanging Chad situation. That's.
Oh, it's great. No matter who wins, we get to hear about election interference forever because both parties are ultra shady and do election interference.
Yes, yeah, and yeah, that's what it is. Like I just don't understand a political strategy. Like back in the old days, man, they would like Clinton days. Like he would lie his dick off. Like he would tell you anything. Like he would tell the people, I'm gonna this, I'm gonna that. And going all the way back, Reagan did the same thing. They all did it. That's how politics was done. Like from the point of Nixon forward, like because Kennedy was pretty straightforward about like, no, we're really going to do the things I say we're going to do. And that's why the CIA blew his head off on a parade, because they did not like him. So the thing of it is like Nixon forward, they're just like made up shit. And like all their inner circle people knew they were just making shit up. I'm going to this, I'm going to that, we're going to this, we're going to that, and then it never happened. But they got your vote, and it motivated you to say, well, the other guy didn't say that he would do these things, but this guy did.
There is so little daylight between policy. I think that's why
Right.
it's just never discussed. Like policy is the last thing you hear about. It's entirely personality things. It's entirely like right now the big thing we're talking about is a comedian at one of Trump's rallies made a joke that people didn't like. That the Trump crowd booed, by the way, which is They had some guy, he got it up talked. He's from a show I've never heard of. And he's like, there's a giant pile of trash floating in the ocean. Oh no, that's just Puerto Rico or something that was basically the joke. He called Puerto Rico a giant pile of trash. And then the entire event starts booing him, which is a part that people leave out because they're like, we were at this horrible white supremacist rally where a guy made a racist joke and everybody was like, woo. And it's like, no, he made the racist joke and everyone said boo. Like it was in New York and a lot of Puerto Ricans were probably there. So it's like, I don't know what point is supposed to be extracted from this. Also, the lady who's running against him is killing children. So like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Actively, it's happening right now. And then
the other guy promises to kill even more children.
Exactly, like that's the thing. I'm going to Israel so much harder, and it's like, you're not leaving us anything to choose from, but people are still like, it's there. I don't know. Every 4 years, people take stupid pills.
And you got to argue about something, and it's just, man, this is just the most nothing. Like, what do you even talk about? Whenever you're ready, I have this video clip because you're going to listen to Don Lemon, who tries to explain the difference and can't.
He's a total dickhead, but this, I don't necessarily think they were planning on this, but kind of come back around here while we're talking about this ultimately a conversation about the Greens. But I really liked what this voter had to say, where he caught up with a voter. Set up the clip. He caught up with a voter after they had just voted, and then they explain why they voted for Jill Stein. So yes, if you please.
Yeah, and this is Don Lemon out, not in a suit. If you don't recognize him,
right.
Vote yet?
Yeah, I voted.
You voted early?
I voted. Yeah, I voted for Jill Stein.
You did?
Yes, Green Party.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
people are going to say, "Oh my gosh, you're wasting your vote." That means another Donald Trump win. What do you say to that?
Do we live in a democracy or no?
Do you actually think she has a chance to win?
no.
I think with our two-party system, not necessarily, but electorally, yes. My realistic thing is I'm not voting for genocide. So that's what Kamala and Trump are, right? What I hate is genocide, and what I hate is capitalism, and what I hate is seeing marginalized people oppressed. Yeah. So when is the time for us to stand up and say enough is enough? Like, what is your red line?
Well, I think that you work with the person who actually has a real chance of winning, and then the more reasonable person, even though they may not agree 100% with what you believe, I believe politics is like public transportation, right? You want to get in a limo, and you want to be delivered to your address. When actual politics and living in a democracy is actually the person that gets you closest to where you want to go, rather than having someone deliver you to the front door, which is never, ever going to happen.
I just think if the delivery car is fascism, aren't we doomed either way? I don't know. I just think the whole system needs to be uprooted, and in order for politicians to serve the people, they need to listen to the people.
But you've already voted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
I voted early because I'm cute.
Okay, first of all, I love that person. They're great.
She's very funny, yeah.
Yeah, very funny. But I also love that moment where they feel like they had that where they realized that he was talking down to them, where they were just like, she kind of starts fidgeting around a little bit. It's like, yeah, Don Lemon.
He's being ultra cutesy. She's matching the weird cutesy. It's also because she says in the beginning and end, she already voted, so it's like, what are you gonna do? Yell at me? It's done.
Yeah, right?
The ballot is in.
And then he kind of goes into then so it doesn't matter. Yeah, you're such a chode. Would you just act like a normal, decent, oh God, what a butthole he was.
He isn't sure where he's supposed to, mid him asking his own question, he flips the microphone back and forth 8 times. It's
right,
he's doing the baptismal water at her. He's like, he doesn't know what he's doing with his handheld. But you have at no point in that conversation, I know it's like a short clip and it's meant to be a TikTok, but what was his argument? Hey, vote for Kamala because you see Jill Stein's like a limo and Harris is like a bus and Trump is like a helicopter. Not helping your
argument. Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, it's like you can't.
There's nothing to say.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. That's what I'm trying to get my words out, and they're not coming because I'm just so this is so stupid. Because this is that was probably the most logical argument that you could possibly hear about anything, because we both know that the stands, the sycophants of Kamala and of Trump are just insane. You really got to just completely discount these people because they're not in it for the issues. They obviously are not going to be bothered by anything. I think probably the entire internet at this point has seen the Harris organizer screaming in a toddler's face about Gaza.
That's the second clip I have.
Let's talk about that for a sec, because like, what the shit? These people have lost the plot, but these are the people that are driving the numbers on who is going to get voted for. You know, and we can make the electoral college argument like, oh, well, it doesn't matter, they're going to pick whoever anyway, which is its own separate problem. But the rallying people up, you know, that's the issue that we have here, and that's the fallout that we have here, because these policies are the same. And I think you were talking to me about this. You messaged me about this earlier in the week about, like, yeah, a lot of white people are now starting to try to take ownership over brown people because they're like, oh yeah, you don't actually matter, sit down. You know, that like the wokeism is done. We're not standing up for you anymore. We're here for ourselves and what we want.
If you insinuate that you're not going to vote for the person they want them to vote for, they immediately go to like, well, I hope that the other person puts your family in a camp. And it's like, okay, This is really good. This is great messaging.
Which happened on CNN basically, but you know, they made their bed. You know, they want to act like they're taking the moral high road now. But he said such a mean thing to a person who's so mean. No, like they're perpetuators of this horrible bullshit that's going on. So, like, you know,
we're down to nothing, by the way, because I was told that I had to vote for Kamala Harris because she's going to help the gays and she's going to help the immigrants. We have Kamala in an interview when they're like, so what are you going to do about trans things? And her answer was states' rights.
Nothing.
The states can decide. She's like, I will follow the law, was her actual response. I will follow the law, which is saying states' rights. Whatever your law is where you live, that's what's going to happen to you. And it's like, oh, so what is the point of electing you again?
Yes. And there are multiple states with anti-trans laws already on the books. So, okay, we're going to follow the states on that then. So you want these guys' votes or not?
Whatever the law is the law, and that's what you're going to follow because I don't want to mess up the law. And it's like, so you're saying that you're running for a national position. You're running for like federal office. Yeah. And they're not even doing the lies of like, I'll do some executive order, I'll do blah 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 in Congress, or be Obama, I'll codify Roe versus Wade day one. That's the Freedom of Choice Act is the first thing I'll do, and then just totally not do it. They aren't even attempting because I think they've done the calculus and they're like, well, if we do that lie, that'll upset the Liz Cheney voters, and then they won't want to. Like, apparently it's not even worth it to them to lie. And then you go to the immigration question, and you have Kamala back-to-back saying, one, that she's going to build the wall way better than Trump did, and how Trump is bad and dumb because he did not build his wall, and she will build the wall, and that's why you should vote for her, even though I remember in 2016 and 2020, the whole build the wall thing being the biggest reason why he's both a fascist and triple Hitler, but it's fine. You're allowed to be triple Hitler if you're a brown woman. I was going to say gay, because for a second, I forgot that Kamala is straight. Like, she does have a husband. That's the only thing they're missing.
All that pandering. She always in gay pride parades and wearing the jackets and that. Like, she was always that Democrat pandering. You know, where you see the memes where it's like, here's a picture of like a nuke or a bomb or something, but like the Democrat one has like BLM and peace symbols and rainbow flags on it. Yeah, it's the exact same situation where it's the same means to the same ends. Like, they're both going for the same thing. And the only thing that could really tell you at this stage is if you got, okay, so take a step back. Like, who am I going to vote for? What are we going to do? Take a step back and look at it. Like, okay, if both major parties are that closely aligned on all of the same policies, that there's really no daylight between them, then that means that there is some other entity, some other stake in the situation that is making the decision or making it so attractive to them that they both want the same thing. So if they're not doing what people want, they're doing what somebody else wants. So that right there is the sign of a co-opted, very clearly co-opted runaway government, is essentially. And when we see this what happens when we've historically seen this happen in other countries? We run in there and do a coup and install some other, leader. So it must be horrifying, honestly, for the rest of the world to be like, both of these guys are fascist and insane, and normally at least one would lie and pretend they weren't, and they're just out in the open doing it now.
Just either yesterday or the day before, Harris was in an interview, and they were like, hey, so what are you going to do for the DACA recipients? And they're just like, we are not commenting at this time. on what. So the dreamers, those are people who were brought into the country when they're like under 5 years old,
Right.
had absolutely no say in showing up here. And now we're like my age. There's a ton of people who are like in their freaking 30s, entering their 40s, who
Right.
have been under the DA and DACA is deferred action. So it's like we're just gonna wait on deporting you, but not yet. These people pay taxes. They have driver's licenses. They've gone to college. They're fully American. They've lived in America for like 90% of their lives, and that's why it becomes like a thing of argument, because it's like, well, okay, if we're talking about deporting people, why would we deport these fully Americanized, only speak English, like this is the only home they've ever known? So it's really hard to make the argument that, yeah, you should just boot them out of the country. So, but Kamala's up there saying, we'll see what happens. We'll roll the dice.
Yeah. We'll figure it all out. And when you say defer to action, that basically means live in jeopardy. Like we'll
you just gotta sit around.
Yeah, we'll decide when we feel like if we're going to do something about it. And then if you were to get somebody that was going to take action on it, like let's say like Trump's going to take action or something, like then he decides they're gone and it's gone, because it could be done by executive order.
Which he didn't do. For 4 years, he was president, and he did not just kick out all the dreamers. He also said, "Yeah, we'll deal with that later."
Yeah, I think that was, he is just, I think, too stupid. Even being, even though they would break things down for him into like little bite-sized, Chiron nuggets of information. But I think that it was just something he's like, I'm not messing with this, And I think a lot of the bad things that he said he was going to do, it wasn't because he wouldn't have done it if he was a more competent person or, more competent politician.
It's stuff that the president can't just do.
Right.
All the shit they're on both ends of this, things Kamala says too, it's like you don't, like that office doesn't grant you that ability. Like when she's talking about like, I will lower grocery prices. I'm like, well, how? Is there any specifics to how the world will be better? How? Like, what do you, we'll make it so you can afford, it's like, what are you going to, what are you as the president?
We're going to do joy again. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? That's not even a thing. And then what you just mentioned about the groceries, that was a town hall, and that comment came on the heels of, what about the genocide? She's like, how about I bring the groceries down, guys? So.
Unless you're doing price controls, unless you're going to nationalize like Kroger and Walmart or something. Yeah. No, you're not. There's no mechanism for you as the president to do these things.
Yeah,
so what do you even mean?
That's a deliberate function of the way that this country works, not just to serve capitalism, but to keep the government from controlling companies, essentially. Like that has always kind of been grandfathered into things that, like, no, the government cannot interfere with things. They can bring up antitrust situations, but that, again, there's a lot of litigation, a lot of back and forth going on there where it's just like, yeah, we can maybe slow this merger down, but it's going to happen. Basically that's what, when they say you need to break your business up, it's too big, you're violating antitrust situations, then ultimately they just fight it out in court until the corporation gets what they want anyway. So it's a bad thing, and it's a bad thing. But it would be a good thing if the government were, theoretically were using their power for good and to serve the people, but they don't do that. So
the government is not even our top layer of power.
Right.
We have the permanent, what a lot of people refer to as like the deep state. It's just a bunch of boards of directors of these of the companies that run the world. Mm-hmm. It's your BlackRocks and your Vanguards and like the Walton family, etc. And the government is used kind of like as the justification for why we're going to redistribute your wealth amongst the corporations. Walmart could not just function, like if we had a truly free market where it was just competition and blah, blah, blah. Like the only way you can become a multi-billion-dollar company in the U.S. is with essentially the government has to look at you and be like, all right, you're okay. We're just going to let you get away with your like list of various crimes, or not even crimes.
Enough to grease our palms, and we're gonna look the other way.
If in my little town of Glendale, there's this pinball shop that tried to open for like 3 years, and they were in permit hell and all of it. It's like, dude, it's pinball. It's a room with pinball machines in it. How is it that hard to open? Like, it's not with liquor or anything. No like liquor license requirements. This is like basically a family establishment. They eventually just gave up and left. In that time, 3 different fast food chains opened in the same town.
We lost you, bud. Don't know if you can hear me or not, but you froze. But okay, yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. Like that's why it's so hard to be a small business owner or even a micro business owner because just go look into getting an LLC. It's ridiculous. It's completely unattainable and something that just can't even be done by just average people when you're talking about how much the cost of these things, the upkeep, and all kinds of different things like that, because it's just, you obviously don't make enough in your small business to give to these politicians to make it worth their while, because what we're looking at is a situation that is total corruption. And we're not necessarily talking about like military corruption or like I don't know how I'm trying to say it exactly. It's because your mind goes to like movies, right? Your mind goes into the movie like corruption, like where like, oh, there's this conspiracy goes all the way to the top. It's not a conspiracy. They're doing it out in the open. And that's what I was saying like earlier in the show. If they both are supporting, if two major parties, which are supposed to be different, that's why they exist, are supporting the majority of these policies that would directly affect people in the country and outside of the country, and their argument is, I'm going to do it harder than the other guy, then they are serving a class of people. And as Jared's pointed out, it's basically like the tech crowd and the oil crowd, or the richest people among us, who decide. And it's not just America, because obviously they have stakes in all the rest of the world. So the global economy it decides, and these companies decide, we choose you as our candidate. We'll support you as a candidate. We'll make sure this works for you. We'll grease the wheels for you as a candidate, because you're going to do what we want. But they both really want that role. They both want to be the golden child. They both want to be the one that gets to decide. They both want to be the one that, like, pick me, I want the most stuff out of it. Because like what we talked about many times, the AIPAC, Israel's PAC, which supports pretty much every going on in our government, they have paid their payouts to Kamala Harris is upwards of $5 million. Less so for Trump. If I was him, I'd be like, hey, give me more money. I said I would go harder on you, and they haven't. So we're working on it. Okay, I just got a message from Jared. He said his internet's gone down real quick, so I'm going to let him know that we know and we're okay. Yeah, we know. It's fine. Everything's cool. It's just, and what are we going to do? And, let's get conspiratorial, okay? Like, we're a week out from the election. We're a leftist podcast. Our internet, everything's messing up. Somebody came in and broke Jared's, his camera cord, that kind of thing. But the point is that I'm getting at here, amid all my silliness, is that with no space between these parties, what are they offering? The answer is nothing. And, in the olden days, they'd at least lie to you and say, I'm going to make things better for you, to try to turn your head away from what they were doing internationally, that kind of a thing. And sometimes they would come through. Like, let's not forget, like, the EPA was established under Nixon. That's a good thing. And it's been, perpetually chipped away at, to the point now where it's like it almost doesn't even exist. And there's been an argument of taking it away altogether, not allowing them to measure emissions and things like this. So when it's cyclical. When you've got a government that's so compromised by what they stand to gain personally, and when they're playing the long game about what they're going to keep getting by being, stooges and puppets to these corporations, they're looking at themselves. They're looking at how to get what they want. They're looking at their own personal enrichment, and they are thinking only about themselves. So, no, there's no representation about, look at the state of houselessness. Look at the state of food crisis in a lot of people, the food deserts. The lack of food regulation. There was another mass outbreak of maybe a listeria or something, but it doesn't matter, E. coli. But and some onions and things, things are not being monitored. The government is not functioning. It is not serving the people in any way. It is, and a lot of people out there are like, we need smaller government. They're constantly cutting back the role of the government. And this is what you get when you get a government that is too small to manage a country the size of the United States. This country is huge. People tend to forget that. It is a gigantic, gigantic country. And there are a lot of interests involved in a lot of people. But when you poll people and you see what people like, how so many people are against the genocide. So many people want an arms embargo. So many people want that money that's going abroad to stay in the country, because we know our infrastructure is bad. We know houselessness is bad. We know wages are down. We know inflation is way too high. We don't have health care. And I hope, and it seems like maybe the healthcare thing might be coming to a breaking point, because she hasn't agreed. Or Kamala, she, you know what I'm talking about. Like, she is definitely punted on that issue. They've walked away from it. But that doesn't, even if you were like the most conservative person in the world, that doesn't help you. Why would you, even if you love your job, and let's say you love your insurance and it's wonderful and great and it serves every need you've ever had, you can totally afford it, which is not the case for like anybody. But let's say you're this outlier type of a person, you are still ultimately paying like 20% of your paycheck to that private insurance, when you could be paying 4% of your paycheck, relatively, to these to like a national healthcare system, a universal healthcare system, where everybody benefits from it anyway, and nobody tells you can't have something. Like, everybody that is against it wants to bring up, it's bad faith arguments. They want to say, oh well, there's waiting lists and you gotta get in line. It's like, okay, well, what in the world do you not have to wait for? Like, no, nothing is a free pass to anywhere. It's not Disney World, okay? Like, you gotta get into. I need to lean back and stop yelling. You gotta get into the idea that, like, you are not the only person in the world, right? Like, you gotta think of other people. And there's that saying that goes around that I don't know how to tell you you're supposed to care about other people, and that is basically like our headline, of the leftism, and of the, and we're pigeonholed into having to call ourselves leftists. Like, we don't give a shit about what you call us, right? We just feel like we are standing up for the social issues, the socialist issues that are affecting all people. Like, I don't necessarily feel like I need to be politically aligned with someone to feel like they should have health care, that they should have clean food and clean water, right? That they should have like their kids should be able to go out and play soccer on a soccer field and not get cancer from the toxins in the grass and whatever. You get what I'm saying. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down here. And the idea here is that it's things are not that complicated. They're really, really not. And they are the ones that make things seem more complicated. I'm going to check the chat here real quick. Are You Time Traveler 2 mentions that people are telling me that they're voting for Harris, and then after getting her elected, then they will fight on the issues. Yeah, that's a very common strategy. We saw that with Biden. Push him left. Remember, push him left did not work. It 100% will not work this time. And I understand that people are afraid. There's a big fear around, like, well, what if, like, we can't have Trump, so I have to vote for her. Because some states, Jill Stein or Green isn't available to vote for. And like the woman in the clip said, electorally, we're talking a bigger picture here, and we are. Anybody who wants to vote third party or for Jill Stein, which we basically endorse on this show. We have our issues, but if, like I said at the top of the show, we're politically aligned closest with the Greens, whether or not we think that they're perfect, and they're definitely not above criticism in the way that we see them. I understand, and I don't begrudge you if you're afraid and you don't know what to do, but I hope that you will try to take, like, your power and try to rely on yourself and say, I'm not going to be part of this. I'm not, I personally am in a state where she was denied access to, Jill Stein was denied access to the ballot. I couldn't even write her in. You could only write in someone who's an approved candidate. So I didn't have that option. But I just did not, I voted in some local elections, but I did not vote presidential. So I left blank the presidential. I didn't vote for Harris or Trump. And last election, I did not vote for Biden either. I wrote in Howie Hawkins, who was way worse of a candidate than Joe Biden. He was like a total dope. But I felt like I had to do it. But the benefit that I got out of it is, even though I didn't benefit from anything, my conscience was clear. And that really does help you when you decide that you need to be like, if my voice is so important in this whole shtick about voting, Okay, well, if my voice matters and my choice matters, then I am going to choose what I believe in, and I'm going to stick with my convictions. And if, for anybody who's afraid, let's say you pretty much know where you're going to vote, what you're going to do, and you're fear motivated, and I've talked about this before. If you're fear motivated, you can't make really good rational decisions on anything. This is just a life lesson thing here. Like, I'm old now. I can give these things. If you're just afraid of Trump winning, then you're not thinking about, like, well, Kamala is in an administration that is already doing horrible things around the world. It is already working towards penalizing, Americans, not rewarding Americans for being American, which any country you live in should. So we end up in a situation where, not only are they not waving any kind of like shiny object in our face to say, hey, forget about what's going on with the genocide. Let's get you something. So we're doing that. So we have another comment here. Yeah, okay. Gamer Jam M, thank you for contributing, says, Americans are screwed if people keep expecting to be saved by billionaires. Every major crisis results in a huge wealth transfer from us to them. They are taking all of our wealth and using it to trap us in this technocratic, feudalistic state. Stop trusting them. 100% correct. That is a correct take. So thank you, Gamer JM. Thank you for that. I'm a total dope when it comes to reading screen names. So if I mess up your screen name, I apologize ahead of time. So yeah, and we love to hear from you. Obviously, we want to know what's going on and what everything is. You're thinking, you're feeling. If you are scared, I've been reached out to, by people who say, I just don't know what to do. I don't know, I feel like everything is going wrong, and I feel like I really can't contribute, or I really don't have a voice. And of course, like, don't you don't have to like self-flagellate. Like, you don't have to beat yourself up over this kind of a thing forever. It's just kind of the way things are, and we understand they're putting you in a really bad situation. They are putting you in a place where you feel like you have to vote for someone to stop the other someone. But we are finding ourselves in this very unusual and unique place where both hey!
Expect me to drop again anytime soon, because, man, my internet just went down for like a solid 15 minutes or whatever that was.
It's a conspiracy. They're trying to silence us.
It's like I live in a populated area now, and like we have relatively modern hookups and.
Yeah.
Living in some old part of town or in the middle of the woods, the fact consistently not very good is something.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I live like right next to like a junction box, and that's the thing. If you go into other countries, like, they have really good functioning internet. Like South Korea, you could like download a whole movie in like 10 seconds. Like, there's like really good internet in other places where things are run in a better way. But we have just gotten accustomed to the fact that we allow the government to offer us the bare minimum of survival of anything going on. So,
companies that require the government in order to succeed, like Comcast, telecom companies, you think that there isn't a little bit of like, hey, we picked a winner or loser, but again, it's not the government that picks them; they pick themselves, and then the government enforces that. Like,
right?
They pick each other.
There are so many things just exactly like that. Like, I think we can all agree internet needs to be nationalized. 100%. It's a utility that we all need, and we honestly shouldn't be paying for utilities pretty much at all. Those should be nationalized as well. These
like
things,
minimum, like
these
$10
things
a
you
month
have
internet.
to have, or just something small. Maybe just something small. These things are things that we have to have. You cannot work. You cannot fill out job applications. You cannot fill out government papers without the internet. Like, you have to have the internet. The end. Like, sometimes it's even like court proceedings and stuff. Like, if you were to zoom in or whatever, like, think about like pandemic times. You cannot exist without the internet. Full stop. So there are a lot of things like, we could just go down the list, just of a million things that are wrong. Then other countries are like, oh wow, everybody else can just figure this out, no problem. But it's just this gigantic country with like, it's supposed to be all the best people and all the best minds, and no, it's because as was said in the chat, they just feed all of this, take all this money away from us and feed it into the technocracy basically, and talk about like how to make more money off world domination.
Well,
But that's dying
I
in
got
pirates.
I got two video clips left that I want to try to use before we're out of time here, and I do have a song actually, and it's a Halloweeny song.
Yay!
But I want to leave us with let's look at. You've probably already seen this video, but let's look at the final push of the Harris campaign to try and get voters. And remember that the little girl screaming at the even littler girl in this clip is not just some rando. They are one of the campaign organizers. This is a Harris person,
This is
not
what
ju-
we
which
talked
doesn't mean
about
they went through. It's not like Harris's best friend or anything, but someone in the campaign was like, you know what, they should organize with us. And
Yeah.
well, here we are. And the rest of the clip is just people like shuffling around. But the things that are fascinating in this are you watch the lady and the little girl is like, because she's so young, like there's no way this person is over 19 years old, but you watch her, she like picks her target and then she calmly walks, gets herself in front of the stroller.
She sidestepped the look around.
She's
It
calm,
was very
calm,
bizarre behavior.
Takes a big deep breath. I don't give a fuck about Gaza, bitch, to a child in a stroller. I don't know.
Like what in your it's like there's so many moments where it's like you can stop this. Like your brain should be like telling you stop, and it's just she's gone. She's just like gone. And this is what politics do to people.
Then you got this black lady with the braids who immediately is like, "What are you doing?" She immediately gives her like a talking to. She's the only, I guess, positive character I see in this clip. Look, she's in the bag and she walks over. She looks, steps, deep breath. He's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't be.
She's on. Like I don't know why she's there. She's just standing there for this situation. Like I don't know if she's a Harris supporter or not. But like her brain the tripwire tripped. Like and it's like whoa, like what a mess.
What crazy argument was happening before that? Like I'm sure because it's got to be like we're here for the Harris rally, and then other group of people we're here because we're mad about the genocide and want to try and push someone left. And they're like, how dare you try to push them in a direction? You're supposed to just vote for them no matter what they do. And then after they've already gotten your vote, the one time every 4 years we supposedly have any kind of input over this. After they already have your vote, that is when you can convince them to do the things you want in order to earn your vote.
That's what we were talking. So I mentioned that while you were off air is that people are saying they're voting for Kamala to then get her in and then bring up these things, and that's the definition of push him left. And we went through push him left and how with Biden, and that did not work at all.
Like why would
it's magical thinking.
There's just as much magical opportunity for Donald Trump to get in office and then suddenly change all of his opinions. Like, Why would you think one of them? You have to free yourself of this belief. Not even it is a belief. It's like we go to two different churches and you look at them and you're like, Protestants, Catholics, this is all basically the same kind of thing. How are you possibly fighting? And it's like, no, you see, our family, and like there's no reasons. I don't know any Protestant or Catholic who is way into the very slight contradictions of procedure that led to that rift. But they vehemently they'll point to like, well, my family has always been blank, especially like in the UK where there is almost no discernible like if you go to an Anglican service, go to a Catholic service in Britain, it's freaking Groundhog Day. It's just the exact same shit, but people kill each other over this stuff.
Right.
Like a lot. Well, it's not really usually over the thing. That's kind of the excuse thrown out. It's almost always economics. But when you just get random poor people fighting each other over, you're like, what are they even fighting about? That's what this situation looks like. It's like you have two different people who are promising to do the exact same things, but we are stuck that, the party that campaigns on being we are the good guys is the good guys, and we just believe that at face value despite all of this various evidence. Therefore, if you don't vote for the good guys, you are bad. What's wrong with you? There's clearly, you vote for the good guys, they're the good guy.
Yeah, and I think, I don't want to get too heavy into this whole idea, but I do think it is a contributing factor, the kind of the superhero brain. Like, good guy, there is a good guy, there is a bad guy, and I've decided which one they are. And
nothing in the universe will change,
No,
will move me
right.
from this position.
it
They
makes
are the
me
good
scream in
guys.
a baby's face. Like, you know,
I don't give a fuck about Gaza, bitch.
we're talking to it's a toddler, for Christ's sake.
It's
Like,
so
oh,
easy.
I guess you better not vote for Donald Trump and cancel out your Kamala Harris vote. Like, for Christ's sake, that's the most unhinged thing I've seen, and it always gets worse. You know, now this week is gonna be nuts. Like, I have a feeling it was so weird. We started this kind of at the beginning of the year. We were talking about, well, we'll do like a every couple of weeks we'll check in about what's going on with politics or whatever. And it was crickets, like all the way up to probably like last month. You know, like nothing was going on, and we kept saying, why is nothing happening? There's nothing happening, because usually they utilize that time, because it's all just like gone nuclear in this last few weeks. And I don't know, this next week is going to be something else.
I think there's only so long you can sustain a campaign about nothing, where there's nothing to actually talk about. So like instead we're just stuck to argue over, is Joe Rogan a good person or not? Like that's the argument we get to have.
Yeah,
Nothing
like
to do
the
with
lowest common denominator argument. And I think you had one more clip about the celebrities. I would
we
really
can
like
throw out
before we go.
celebrities. I'm gonna play this while I grab my guitar.
Yeah.
But this is like, this kind of shit worked on me like 4 years ago, and that's what's maybe a little bit longer, but that's what's the craziest part. That's why I play these things. That's why I have such a reaction to this.
We would not be here had we not been shit-libs at one point.
That's why we talk about them so much. We talk about the Democrats constantly because we were fooled by this, so we want to talk to other people and be like, no, look, you see, we got out of the cult, and you can too. You just gotta think. Here they are.
An obligation
to be a part of that decision.
You might think it's not important. You might think you're not important.
But that's not true. And the only way we can prove that to you is by having lots of famous people.
Lots of famous people.
I don't know who some of these people are, which is also funny.
Just a shit ton of famous people.
But you only get this many famous people together if the issues.
One that truly matters to all of us.
a disease
Don't know her.
or
Ecological crisis or
A racist,
I know him. That's
abusive
Doom Iron,
coward who
Captain
could
America.
permanently damage the fabric of our society.
Do the math.
No
Do we
idea.
really want to
Some
give
people in
nuclear
here are like,
weapons
"God
to a man
damn
whose
it."
signature move is firing?
Who's this guy?
Firing things?
But we can end this nightmare before it begins.
Is that Margot
We
Robbie?
can save the day.
For our children.
For our children.
Redhead
For our
is,
children. For our
Yeah, that was Stanley
communities.
Tucci. I know
Oh
him.
yeah,
For
and then
communities.
fuck-ass
For
Nicole,
America.
for
Brown.
America.
For
You did
America.
that, Lily.
All it
I
takes.
like stripy shirt
is
girl. She's
all of
crying.
us.
All of us.
All of us.
We cannot pretend both sides are equally
Man, he's been on the
unfavorable.
right side of
You can't
politics
say one
sometime
vote doesn't
before.
matter.
That
Your
pisses
vote
me
matters.
off.
Your vote matters.
It affects everything.
Not just the presidency, but
Is
the
that Joe
Senate.
The House.
Your local officials.
Immigration.
Yes.
Oh my God! When they said
Common
immigration,
sense
they got
gun
the only
laws.
person with an
Supreme
accent.
Court.
Again, the Democrats are super racist. It's just funny that we are trained not to recognize it. It's great where they're like, "Oh, who's gonna say the word immigrant? Let's get the only person with an accent on this." on this.
Not just the presidency, but the Senate.
The House.
Your local officials.
Immigration.
Immigration.
Student debt. Common sense gun laws.
The Supreme Court.
I know immigration. She keeps saying how she's gonna build the wall better and more so than Trump, but you know, immigration. That's the big reason that you got to go with her. At least they did list a thing. They just did a topic, not like what she's gonna do with immigration. Just, you know, the existence of immigration is.
There's a thing, like, yeah, it's like this entire thing is completely topic based. It's ridiculous.
But like that's it. I'm sorry, I cut off the last like 3
Yeah,
seconds.
no, it's probably
See, this isn't just an election, it's a tipping point.
For the country.
oh,
For
now?
the world.
For your world.
Most important election of our lifetime.
Oh,
Most
God.
important one.
Well, what we have here is a bunch of it's a bunch of you know, basically what we're looking at is an actual sex pest and some internet bullies, some nepos, and a whole bunch of multimillionaires living the fucking dream life, telling you what's right for you. And that is like maybe the most insulting thing that could be happening in all of this. Like, you know, that's why usually they go find just like normal fake people that they've screened. Just like the whole McDonald's thing. You know, the people on the left were like, you know, mostly liberals, not so much left. People, they seem to get it. But the whole McDonald's thing, they're like, it's fake. It was a setup. Yeah, of course it was a setup. That's how these things work. It was literally a commercial. It was a commercial. That's what they do. They find people who kind of, well, they can look like average regular people, and the whole Joe the Plumber thing, and because they want you to see other people who look like you and then think, well, if it works for that guy, it will work for me. You don't get like these assholes who are even mocking their own situation. We're famous, a bunch of famous people. Man, go fuck yourselves. Every single one of you should not even exist, in accordance to the rest of us. And I have read before, and I'm sure this can be verified somewhere because I don't have it in front of me, obviously, but like there's supposed to be, like, there's some studies done, there's supposed to be a correlation between like the lowest, not like the dumbest people, lowest knowledge people, and celebrity worship. Like there's literally a connection there of some kind. And I don't know if they just thought it was a good idea to do this, but it really rings of that whole, celebrity sing Imagine at the beginning of the pandemic. It's just disgusting. But why don't you sing us a song and that's not disgusting and is actually awesome? Quick note, a week from today, November 5th, is election day. So we're going to come on the day after, on Wednesday the 6th. So we have something more concrete to talk about instead of just more of this, stuff that we've been doing this whole time, the who's going to be, the what's going to be. So we'll have a little more polling information, it'll be a little more informed by then. Or it'll be in a dead heat and we're going to start seeing dust-ups happen. Who knows?
If we are truly like, we don't know who won on Wednesday, I'll be not actually very surprised, but like no other country does it take like multiple days to get election results. Like every other country, it's just done by like, sometimes it's like midnight to the night of, but they just count the ballots and put like, I hope somebody much smarter than me and more full of nonsense can explain to me why it takes more time to count even if every single person in the country voted, which we don't, 300 million ballots. How's it take more time than in like India where they count like 600 million ballots and they've managed to do it? These Latin American countries where it's like, yes, you take all the ballots and you sit in this little, like, not really the town square, but in this public area where everyone we sit around and count the ballots and you can watch us count them. But in the U.S. it's like, we go to the dungeon for up to 7 days and then we release the 5th batch of ballots. Mail-in votes will not be counted until the 3rd Tuesday under a full moon. It's like, why don't we just, what? It's in computers. We already know.
Yeah, so we'll see what's going on with that. So everybody try to keep it cool for this next week. And we got Halloween coming up in a couple of days. So remember, not everybody, if you're going to hand out candy, hand it out to everybody. There are people out there that are going through different things in their life. If they look too old, you don't know their situation. If you're going to hand out candy, hand out candy. Be nice to everybody. Let people have a good time. Don't yell in toddlers' faces, please. Don't make it political.
I don't give a fuck about Gaza, bitch.
Right? Yeah, okay, just please, just have a good time, all right? Let the kids have a good time. Let people have a good time. Sometimes kids don't want to wear costumes for different reasons. They don't have to meet your criteria when they come to your door, okay? Just give them the goddamn candy. Also, watch out for cats. Make sure nobody's mean to cats around this time. That's your definite responsibility as well. Because not satanic panic things. I'm just saying, sometimes people get carried away at this time of year. So, anyways, next week we'll be live with you on Wednesday, same time of day, and we will see you soon. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. Try not to go crazy, and please enjoy the lovely stylings of our one Mr. Jared. So, see you guys later.
This is a Cab Calloway song called "The Ghost of Smokey Joe." Hidey, 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 hidey. You didn't see me climb through the window. Nobody had to open that door. I just climbed right through the walls, and I want you one and all to stand aside and let me have the floor. Take a look. I'm not such a stranger. Here's a face you cokies all ought to know. You can tell me I'm not wanted, but the joint will still be haunted, 'cause I'm the ghost of Smokey Joe. Remember when I kicked the bucket in my mansion up on Strivers Row? When they came and took me off in a gazillion-dollar coffin, 'cause I'm the ghost of Smokey Joe. Tell me, do you remember Minnie? Yeah, we remember Minnie. That frail I never found. You never recognize your Minnie. You mean to say that Minnie quit kicking the gong around? I got a date on my estate down in Hades. Call my chariot so I can go. And should the moocher walk in, just tell her you've been talking to the ghost of Smokey Joe. Tell me, do you remember Minnie? Yeah, we remember Minnie. That frail I never found. You never recognize your Minnie. You mean to say that Minnie quit kicking the gong around? I got a date on my estate down in Hades. Call my chariot so I can go. And should the moocher walk in, just tell her you've been talking to the ghost of Smokey. Hey, 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 to the ghost of Smokey Joe. Happy Halloween.